One of the best tips I can provide in business continuity is to ensure that there's an air gap between your production data and the copy of your data you're maintaining for business continuity and disaster recovery. This is to protect not only against site disaster and other physical things that could happen, but also threats like ransomware.
Fastest growing and most impactful risk to your business today is the threat from a cyber attack. Traditional DR programs and practices do not address cyber or the ability to restore normal business operations. In the past, with natural disasters or weather events, simply having a business continuity plan, work area and/or site recovery alternatives were sufficient. However, with today's new threats, you need to be thinking about automating and orchestrating your disaster recovery and running it as a service. Being flexible and open to refining your strategy is really important for a sound IT recovery plan, regardless of the event.
The city of Sparks in Nevada has 90,000 citizens, and we were contacted recently by their police department because all of the city employees were shut out of their systems and couldn't access any of their data because of a ransomware attack. The city of Sparks was able to recover in 12 hours and be able to bring up their environments and make sure that all of the city employees could get back to work.
Here's what my 2020 outlook is for the disaster recovery as a service industry. First of all, migrations have been popular. In the future, in 2020 especially, I think you're going to see a lot more application-centric views, the recoverability of how your applications are doing, and then also being able to fail over application sets at a time and ensuring that they're running. And then number 3 is tiering of services, bringing it all together into a recovery cloud. So that's what I see for 2020, just a continuation on, and really, start looking in the future as we get to the end of 2020. Let's look at what we can do for containers and protecting them.
I'm here to talk to you about the 3211 use case. Now, this use case is a best practice rule and it's old as time, but it's proven to work effectively to secure and protect your data. With an alarming rate of ransomware attacks, adhering to a 3211 rule will be crucial to recover from any disaster. 3 copies of your data, 2 different media types, 1 offsite to protect from disasters, and 1 offline to protect from ransomware.
And when it comes to cloud storage, you have a lot of options. There are vendor options as well as public cloud storage options. All the different cloud vendors have all these different pricings, so you need to look at what your criteria are. So build a list. How long do you need to keep the data? How often do you think you're going to need to recover the data or pull it back down? And how often do you think you're going to be manipulating that data? So all these have an important cost factor. Understand your criteria and shop around. They're not all the same. Some are better, some are worse. But by looking at all the different criteria, you should be able to find the one that best fits your needs.
Some system integrators may have the expertise and resources needed to leverage open source software in their Linux offerings. But an increasing percentage will choose to integrate solutions purpose-built to provide high availability and disaster recovery protections, as these have proven to be more dependable for the customer, while also being just as, if not more, profitable for the integrator.
Know your most likely risks. Identify the most severe risks to your IT infrastructure. 2. Prioritize your recovery. Identify what the most critical services you require are. 3. Backup data to meet objectives. Consider your recovery point objectives, how much data your company is willing to lose in a disaster situation. 4. Have a critical response team. These include internal members of staff and external third-party contacts, e.g. software vendors, web hosts, and of course, a data recovery company. 5. Document and test your plan. Documenting your plan is crucial to avoid any confusion when staff are under pressure.
You know what? You've got a very complex environment on your hands, and you've got to be able to make sure you have the confidence to report up to your management that yes, no matter what happens, I've got this business back up and online in a heartbeat. And that covers everything from ransomware to disaster recovery to readiness across your entire organization. So think holistically, look at it all, and then you can make the right decision for you. Really, when you understand your environment and understand where your risk exposure is, right? You've got more data, more locations, it's spreading, it's never going to stop, let's face it, right? So what are you going to do about that? How are you going to make sure that you have consistent policies in place to know that you're always protected no matter what? Starts with understanding, defining the risk, and then you can deploy your solution.
People are willing to adopt the public cloud if it's affordable. From a DR solution perspective, people are looking for RTO, and people are looking for ease of use. And from an ease of use perspective, people want a SaaS application, that's where the build is. And people want runbook orchestration to orchestrate the applications and networking and everything else. And thirdly, people want operational consistency. If you have VMware on one site one, you want the VMware on site two. Especially in public cloud, you don't want to be converting your VMs for days to into some other format.
In 2020, on-premise storage, whether active or standby, will see a comeback, especially with customers who are hit with cloud usage bills that are dramatically higher than originally anticipated. Enterprise IT will need to be able to bridge the worlds of the cloud and on-premise storage. Software solutions that enable swift mobility between these two domains will be increasingly critical. Only via this bidirectional model will IT be able to achieve the highest performance, scalability, and capability, as well as the safest data retention, at the most cost-effective price.
There's three key pieces to looking at your DR strategy. The first one is finance. How much does it cost? How much is it going to cost to maintain? Looking at all these things like CapEx and OpEx and data centers. The second is integrations, and that means how do your tools work in your DR environment? How are you going to tie it into your automation systems? And the last is technical operations. How do your people work? How do you integrate what you do from your DR standpoint with all the other parts of your business?
As good a job as we as an industry do in the area of backup, restore, disaster recovery, business continuity, we don't always get it right when we think about the individual pieces, like one document store, one data store, one line of business application at a time. It's the interoperability amongst them where the action is. And being able to back that up and reconstruct it or preserve it, it's a harder task than a lot of people think.
Here are 3 tips for maintaining overall data protection best practices to keep your data ready and available. First, talk with your organization. Learn what apps and databases they consider critical. Know the SLAs so you're disaster recovery ready. Second, make sure that those critical apps, even SaaS apps, are included in your regular backup strategy. Third, it's really important to have a central view of your data protection environment. Ideally, you have a centralized dashboard that shows your multi-cloud and on-premise storage locations.
The recovery needs to be predictable, and it starts with a tighter collaboration between the IT operations and security team. Looking at a backup solution, it should offer 100% backup success rate, because anything less than 100% is unacceptable. For recovery, it needs to support global actionable search with visibility into the health and recoverability of the snapshot.
You want a solution with broad coverage and a history of adopting new technology quickly. Modern backup solutions incorporate automation, orchestration, and policy-based management. Today's enterprise backup solutions have evolved from simply protecting the data. You need a solution that allows you to use the data for business purposes, such as accelerating dev test, migrating to the cloud, or improving data analytics.
3 things to keep in mind when it comes to backup. Number 1, more is more. If you're unsure whether you're going to need it, back it up. 2, always back up multiple copies to multiple tiers, including at least 1 copy off-site. And that leads to number 3, and perhaps most important, ransomware. It's as destructive as any other disaster, and it's far more likely to happen to you.
When you're trying to protect your business critical VMs and applications, there are 3 key elements you got to look for. Make sure your system actually can assure that you can actually recover certain things within a period of time, what you commit to your business. That's the first one. Make sure your system has built-in protection so that it actually assures applications are protected consistently. The third thing, both your VMs and apps are using data from file services. And when you're using next generation file services, make sure your system actually can do it extremely efficiently without causing unnecessary load.
More and more customers will move workloads into the cloud, and we'll start to have data protection challenges for those that have a data center-centric backup system. And then I think a lot of customers are also going to be doing containerization of their workloads with persistent storage, and I think that a lot of people are going to find some real challenges in that arena.